So I said it right. So Teri is a leader in all things strange and paranormal. There isn't much Teri hasn't studied when it comes to matters of the unknown. She approaches her studies scientifically with an open, non-judgmental mind, and no subject is too controversial to research. Her personal encounters started as a young child and have been consistent with this writing. Her desire to know the truth led her on a personal quest that has guided her to this day, 45 years later. She experienced a very powerful spiritual event in 1973 that changed her life. Her personal extraterrestrial experience in 79 changed everything she knew to be true and began a deeper study of what life and spiritual truth was really all about beyond the veil of biblical doctrine. And she has a book, an ebook called Alien Healing, which is on Amazon.com. She's a radio show host and TV personality with the Paranormals. So I've got a much longer bio and pictures and her contact information on aquarianradio.com. Please do go check that out. We have a big panel here today, so we're going to get right on it. First, I'm going to have Dr. Lessin. We're going to do a mic check here. This is our first time producing our show with Deborah DeFranco. So welcome aboard, producer Deborah DeFranco. Dr. Sasha Lessin, are you there, please? Unmute your mic.
Yes, good. Hello.
Hi.
Since the Council of Hatona and the Andromeda Group, we've had reptilian genes in all the beings on this planet. And the reptilians have, in many ways, and sometimes on our side, sometimes on other sides, been in contact. So if this is for what we're going to have today, if the listener would just imagine you're going down a tree, a great tree, a tree of your ancestors, down, down, down to your roots, to maybe an ancestor you never thought about, and just let that being, that ancestor, that essence come to you now. And just feel what it's like to be that ancestor, because that's what you can do it, and Teri's going to tell us what happened when she did it.
Okay, next person I'm going to bring on is Karen Gresham-Nickel. Please say hi. We're doing mic check, and just say who you are, like hello.
Hi.
Go ahead, Karen.
My name is Karen Gresham-Nickel, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, an empath, experiencer, and a ufologist. And that's how is my sound?
Your sound is great. Okay,
Good.
So we're going to check with Deborah DeFranco, who, you are the producer, Deborah, but you're on the panel too, so feel free to ask questions and chime in. So, welcome.
Go
ahead,
I'm here.
Deborah.
Thank you. I'm here. Hello.
Okay.
Can you guys
want
hear
to toot
me?
your horn for a second? We can hear you. Do you want to toot your horn for a second and say who you are and what you do?
Who am I?
No.
Great question. In terms of the metaphysical world.
Yes. Yes. Your metaphysical stuff.
Yeah. In terms of the metaphysical world.
Count Coup.
I'm a high-level empath. I have the gift of prophecy. And I used to be able to remote view, but I don't see that anymore. And I've been told that I can read people's minds, but I don't believe it. And that's it for me.
That's good to know. So we're going to bring in our special guest. That's good. We can go into more about who we are and interesting things during the course of the next 2 hours. So Teri Lynge-Kehl, you're going to correct my pronunciation. So what we want to do is we want to kind of put you on the hot seat. We're going to all eyes are on you, all questions are for you, and we're going to focus on you for the next I'd say half an hour to an hour. But for the next 15 minutes, could you please tell us your story about your encounter, which is behind your book, Alien Healing? And I know you have some additional information that you're going to add to the next book. So we're going to put you on the hot seat and go ahead and tell us about yourself and your encounters which led to alien healing. Take it away.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you so much, Janet, too. I'm very glad to be here with all of you, especially Karen. This is really amazing to be with her on the show. So I just feel really blessed. But my name is Teri Lynge-Kehl, and I'm on the board of directors with the Mutual UFO Network, which most of you know as MUFON, and I'm also their director of memberships. I am with Enigmatic Anomalies and have been for about 10 years. And we do paranormal investigations and demonology and different things. I do cleansings of homes. I'm not a psychic, but I am very sensitive. And everything I do through the Holy Spirit. I'm a little bit different than most. I don't play with the demons or talk to them or entertain them or run around looking for them. I go in and get rid of them. I'm a reverend, ordained, and I guess pretty much that's all there is about me to tell you about, other than I am an abductee and a contactee. And my entire life I have had just numerous amounts of different types of interactions with extraterrestrial, ghosts, angels, and demonic full-bodied apparitions, just scary things, spooky things, things moving around the room. I have seen a floating head that was able to speak and talk, which is what brought me into demonology, to be quite frank, because I figured if these things are real, somebody needs to enlighten me as to how to control and deal with them properly. And so I began a search at a very young age, after all in the wrong places, I might add. I was, going to different places, like just regular psychics, and some are real and some aren't. And I got the ones that weren't. And, I went to a lot of different places trying to get help. I went to the Catholic Church. They literally walked me out the front door and said, don't ever come back. I was like a freak to them, I guess. And, I was looking for the only kinds of help that I ever could until I was contacted literally by angelic forces, and I was moved towards extraterrestrials through that, and it's just a really powerful experience. I wrote about it on my blog, terilyng.com, and for the first time I found help when I came into MUFON, and this spirit led me to MUFON by speaking audibly to me one day, and I ended up going to the computer and typing in what had happened to me 29 years earlier, and there MUFON came up. So that's how I got involved with MUFON. And it seems that in 1979, when I had my first very powerful encounter with a craft and a tall white extraterrestrial, which, believe me, changed my life, I knew once I had seen all of this and experienced all of this myself, and all alone I might add, that there was a whole lot more going on, that we were being taught in school, in church, on TV, on even the radios. I knew there's a much bigger picture here, and I decided at that point I'm going to figure out what is really going on and why aren't we being taught the truth. Do others not know, or are they just afraid? So this was my conundrum in my life, and a dilemma that I handled by myself. And once I came to MUFON, then it all started opening up like the layers of an onion. I started figuring out and seeing the bigger picture and understanding it. And in 2012, which is why we're on tonight with me, I guess, I had quite an experience. After everything that had happened to me in all my life, this final experience in 2012 with this reptilian hybrid just blew my mind. It really did. And I had the hardest time trying to wrap my mind around it and even believe it myself, because it was beyond bizarre. And it still, again, went against every single thing I was taught or I believed in or I understood. I had no idea that aliens had the power to heal. And so I had spiritual experiences after that, as well as extraterrestrial experiences. And I've got it figured out, and I understand it now, but at the time, mind you, I didn't. I didn't know what was happening. And I had reached out to a couple friends in MUFON and told them that very day what had happened to me, and they asked me, have you gotten a swab? And I said, no, I didn't. So I got a swab from the interaction and put it in a baggie, stuck it in my freezer for 7 years. And then one of my board members told me that I think it was in 19, that we could send my specimen off to a lab for DNA testing. And so that did, in fact, happen. And the lab was...
Can I
Go ahead.
Teri, can I have, before we get too far down that direction, can we go back in time to that day? So be there now and talk as if it's happening now in the present tense. What happened with this? From my understanding, it was a reptilian that did this healing. But what was going on that you needed healing? What was happening that you were?
In 2000, the year 2000, I had been told by my doctor, I had been bleeding rectally, believe it or not, for 2 years. And I just kept thinking, it's going to stop, it's going to stop. And I would take all my homeopathic medicines and do everything I thought would help. And it didn't. And after 2 years of that, in 2000, the doctor said, Teri, if you don't have this particular surgery that I'm suggesting you have, a subtotal colectomy, then you won't make it. You won't live another couple months. You may live a month and, your body could give out. You're bleeding too frequently, too much. You're weak. And I was anemic. And I was so lethargic. I was always tired, and I was popping iron pills and all this. And he said, you can't do this anymore. Your body is saying, no, enough. So I made the decision to have it. And I did the surgery. And in the surgery, they removed the whole large intestine. And then they hooked me up to myself by taking all of this out, so that I wouldn't have to wear a bag or any of that kind of thing after the surgery, but I could use my own body. And they removed some of the bowel that was affected. They said it was a combination of advanced Crohn's colitis, which was going into a cancerous state. So they just took everything. And it was precancerous. I did not have cancer, but they saw that it was just the next step in my, scenario, and it was going to take me quickly if they didn't get it all. So they really pretty much emptied me of a lot, and I was in the hospital for quite some time, and they couldn't get one area to stop with a very slight bleed. And 6 weeks after the surgery, they brought me back to do a second surgery. And that was mind-blowing painful. And they were trying to stop this bleed. And because of this issue that I was having, I ended up, after the second surgery, having the most painful right side area of my tummy constantly hurting me. And there was nothing I could do to make it stop. I had to give up wearing blue jeans and even sometimes underwear. Anything that would put too much pressure on me hurt. It was just terribly uncomfortable. And so after about 2 years of trying to figure out a way of getting rid of the pain, the doctor said, this is your new normal, honey. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I get rid of one problem, and now my new normal is I'm hurting all the time, And he said, yes, but it should get better. Well, it didn't. And so in 2012, I had pretty much just, come to the understanding that I was going to live with this pain. It was just going to be part of who I am. And I didn't complain about it because nobody wants to hear all that nonsense, And so I just, every day I would just not wear anything tight, not restrict myself too much, not bend too often, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm sound asleep one evening, and that's when the extraterrestrial came to me. And I didn't pray for healing. I wasn't begging God for, removing this thorn in my side. It just happened. And it was really...
Could you tell us what he looked like?
Sure.
Was it a male ET? What did it look like?
Well, I didn't know if he was male or female until he spoke. And he had a male voice, very male, very low pitch. And he spoke very slowly and deliberately. In other words, he wasn't there for conversation. And I was sound asleep, and he called my name, and all I heard was Teri. And I woke up immediately and rolled over, and there he was. And can you hear me? It sounds like it's messing up.
Can you hear me? It sounds like it's messing up. Could everybody please mute?
Was he speaking in English?
He was. He spoke in English, and he said Teri. And then I turned over, and I saw him, and I was so taken aback. I just was, and that was it. I mean, I didn't make another move. I was mesmerized by what I was seeing in this moonlight. My curtains were drawn back in the moonlight and the outside lighting in the yard. I could clearly see him, and he was colorful. And just literally amazing. And even though I was frightened, I could feel him somehow or other causing me not to be frightened. It was like the fear was leaving me, and I was becoming more and more curious with every second. And then I was focused on his skin, and it was just amazing. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. It was so up close and personal, and I'm staring at him, and there was different colors of red and yellow and green, and there was a black kind of a circle around his eye, and he had huge eyes. But the thing that was so bizarre about him, he had these jowls that were different than a regular reptilian. They were a little more puffy, almost like he had swollen jowls, or like he had a swollen tooth underneath it all or something. And it just was different. And yet he had a reptilian face, and I had seen another reptilian. So I knew this is a reptilian, but it's a hybrid of some sort. He has colors. And the black circle around his eye was just weird, bizarre. And his eyes were very big and thinner than what you would see on a regular extraterrestrial, like the tall whites had these big, wide eyes. His wasn't quite that wide. And of course it had this black ring around it. And I saw his hand. He was 3 different digits I could clearly see. I couldn't see beyond that. But he was holding something. I noticed then, oh my gosh, he's got something in his hand. And it was more claw-like. And he had scales with little tiny hairs on the end of them. And each one had these tiny little hairs on the end of them, which was very much like you see on a crab, like around the edges of a crab, if you've ever seen that. I live in Florida, so I have. And that was what it likened itself into my thinking at the moment. And it was just bizarre. And he was holding this wand, but the wand was so not normal. It was literally moving, and it frightened me a tad. I was like, oh my God, it's not like he's not weird enough. Now he's got this thing in his hand. And, you know, I say hand, but literally it was more like a claw. It actually had like a dog's claw at the end of it, like 3 that I could clearly see. And his fingers were stubby. They were not long. They were stubby. And he was short. He was only about 4 feet high because he was not bending down. He was standing next to the bed. And as I watched him, he was watching me. And all of a sudden he said, again, be still. That was it. And I thought, be still, you know, I'm not going to move. But he took that wand, and let me just tell you about the wand. The wand was just unbelievable. It was like something that we would see in biology with flowers in the field that, or ferns that are very long, you know, and then they roll tight down into just one little ball almost. And it was very much like that. It looked like the tentacle of an octopus, very much like that. And the skin on the thing looked like shark skin, like it was gray, and it did kind of look like something off of a octopus. But not exactly. I mean, it only had maybe 4 at the most suction tips on it, and there was one on the end of the one that was shaped. It has a weird shape. I sent you the picture. I don't know if you uploaded the picture, but it kind of looked like a little nipple or something. Like a baby bottle has that little nipple, like, you know, and it was very similar to that, but not like that, you know, because it was flatter, wider, it was gray, you know. But it protruded at the top is the point I'm trying to make. And then the other side was just this long tentacle thing that did the biological curl. And it was curled down, but it was moving. And from time to time, it would kind of open just a tad and then close back down a tad. And I'm staring at this thing thinking, what is that? You know, what is that? That thing is alive. That is not a surgical instrument. You know, I mean, I have medicine and dental in my background, and I know very well what instruments look like. And I just thought, what the heck? And he took and inserted that vaginally into me, and the part that wraps, I could feel that wrapping around the inside of my body where that sore, tender pain had been for 12 years. And it was getting warmer and tighter, warmer and tighter. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, is it going to burst? You know, and there was a tingling, a very profound tingling with this. And it was overwhelming because I didn't know if he was going to pull this out, if it was going to burst, if I was going to start bleeding. I didn't know what to expect. This has never happened before. So, you know, I was just in the moment with it. And I closed my...
Where did he insert it? Rectally or vaginally?
Vaginally.
Oh. Vaginally, okay.
Yeah. And so...
And I don't have that picture, so after the show, if you could send that, I will put it on the site. I don't see it, so just send it again so it'll be at the top.
Oh, okay, sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I did a rendering when I was on Coast to Coast for George Norrie and Cheryl Jones, and I did it very quickly. My husband and I sat down because they wanted something to see it. And I mean, I'm not an artist, okay? That is not my forte. But I did the best I could and created both of these renditions of what it was like. They're not perfect, but they're very close. They're similar, excuse me. And anyway, so I closed my eyes really tight thinking he was going to yank it out or something, because this biological fern-type tentacle was getting very tight on that area that was sore, and I could feel that, very much so. And like I said, I didn't know if it was going to burst and I was going to bleed to death or what was going to happen. And I closed my eyes very tightly, and I could feel it getting hot, hot, hot. And I just kept my eyes closed for a moment. And when I opened my eyes, he was gone. And I thought, what? What the heck just happened? You know, and the tingling was still there. I was still feeling the heat. I was still feeling the tingling, but I wasn't feeling any pain. And I laid there for a minute. I don't know if I was like literally in some kind of shock from the moment or what was happening, but my mind was being flooded with every single second I had just lived. And I was trying to understand it and what he said and what he did and what did he do? You know, what did he do? Aliens don't heal. I mean, that's crap. You know, that can't be real. That can't be true. And so I had never read nor had ever been told that they did. So it opened up this whole new avenue of understanding. Like I said, it really did speak to me. And then once again, I realized the more I know, the less I know. You know, the less I understand it too. And so then I started talking to other people, and I called, you know, 2 friends from MUFON and asked them, you know, what should I do? This tingling is still going on, and it's really bizarre. It's almost uncomfortable. It's a little bit frightening. And the tingling did not stop for 9 hours that day. I was going to go to the hospital, and I said to one of the gals from MUFON, do you think I ought to go to the hospital? And I mean, I was dead serious, okay, because I was very concerned, a little scared. I didn't know what just happened to me. Nothing like that had ever happened. And she laughed and said, are you kidding me? She goes, what are you going to do? Tell the doctor, oh, I had an alien come by last night and he did this and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, what are you going to tell him? And I went, oh, yeah, this is bizarre. You know, who would believe this? They'd probably lock me up. And I thought, oh, my gosh. So they told me just get a swab it, throw it in the freezer. And I said, okay. And I took a shower, and I was still experiencing the tingling and all of that. And it was the 9th hour later that it finally completely and totally subsided, and I was my normal self again.
Okay, I'd like Karen. I know she has a question.
Sure.
So, Karen, can you unmute? Go ahead and ask your question. We're going to go around all 4 minutes and ask questions of you. So, Karen, you go first. Just ask one question and then pass it on to Sasha and then on to Deborah. Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Well, Teri just did a beautiful explanation of it because I'm able to see the whole film. Like I could see you, I could see the whole thing because that's what I do. So I really don't have any more questions because you did it so beautifully, Teri. I mean, I even saw the colors. I felt the emotion of the reptilian and the care and the love, and he was supposed to come there and do this for you in order to, he was the only one who could heal you, or someone from his race, and he was sent to you to heal you. And so it's a good thing you didn't go to the doctors because they would have just run you through the mill again. And so that's great. I mean, I don't have a question. I think it's just beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I enjoyed the film.
Oh, thank you.
And it's good to be with you again. I miss you a lot.
I miss you too. I look forward to seeing you. But one thing I do want to say is I do believe, like you are saying, that he was sent to me. And this was very specific. And I don't know why they decided to do this healing. That I'm not positive about. But I do know it was orchestrated by them. And they did this on purpose. And it may have been related to the other extraterrestrial that I saw. That was the huge, massive reptilian. He was very kind. People seem to think that reptilians are these horrible creatures, and some of them may be, but I have never once experienced that. I don't know why I haven't, but every single extraterrestrial I have interacted with has been absolutely lovely.
Me too. And I'm gonna add something to what you said. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I had someone call me who was a reptilian, and I'll make it real short. And they said for me to go on Skype. They wanted to do a Skype reading, and they said they were a reptilian. And they said, well, I know you can give me a reading because the Pleiadians do the best readings. And I said, okay. They said, well, all you do is just sit there and don't speak for an hour. And I said, okay. And I did just that. And she was beautiful, very sweet, but just, and I did that. And then the hour was up. I said absolutely nothing. And she sent me all these hearts on the screen. And she said, that is the best reading I have ever had. I knew you could do it because I knew who you were and where you came from. And I said, well, thank you. She said, I just want to ask one question. And I said, what? And she said, I forgot to ask you, when is my boyfriend going to be able to stop shape-shifting as a human? When can he be like a reptilian, like what we are? She said, I have to be in a human body. And I said, well, you told me you're from Australia. And I said, but your hours look like European. She said, oh, I'm off the coast of somewhere, Portugal now. And she said, I have a cat lady and a wolf lady that goes with me. They're ET species, races. And she said, so we just live close to the water. And it was just the most incredible thing I've ever had. But she was as sweet as she could be. And that's what she was. And I was just going to add to that. So I think it's my opinion, Teri, that he was sent to you because you have a lot of healing to do with another book, with your books. And they're helping you to know that we all can be in peace with all these races.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you. Keep on talking. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I'm going to pass the talking stick to Sasha and then to Deborah.
Yeah.
Sasha, are you there? Okay, do you have a question?
I certainly am.
For both.
Yes, I do. Yeah, Teri, I thank you for sharing that. But what really strikes me is what if you had created your malady, your pain in the ass, for your own growth at some level, what was the incident? What were you doing to your body? What were you retroflecting in your childhood? And what is the message of all that? And how did it, and you can see it where, what did you learn from it? But, it comes down to when you remember that time of when you felt that pain, when you somehow put that there, how did you do it? What was going on in your life? And have you resolved that? And what did you learn?
I have, and it's interesting you would say that, Sasha, because that was one of my main questions. How did I get to this place? And it's because my very seriously bizarre life, from the time I was 5 years old, I have seen extraterrestrials. I have seen spirits. I have seen angels. I have heard the voice of God himself, Jesus, speaking to me. I have had full-bodied demonic apparitions appear to me. And my whole life was burdened by the fact that I never knew at what moment something was going to attack me or come at me. Or there were nights when I would sleep and they would stroke my face. And I would think, leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep. And this little girl, as a 5-year-old, would try to tell my parents what was going on, and they couldn't hear me. They couldn't understand it. And so I was left alone to deal with all these bizarre happenings, and nobody was listening to me. And the frustration started very early. And then as I got older, 16, say, I would ask some of my friends in school, what do you do when these things happen to you? And they started looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, I'm bleep. What are you talking about? And I would say, well, you know, don't these things happen to you? No, they didn't. And so, again, I started feeling so odd. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I maybe crazy? Is something wrong with me? But these things would not stop. And then I started reading, you know, different comic book things, and I saw them in the comic books, you know, ghosts and aliens and stuff like that, comic book entertainment. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this is just some weird thing happening. And it wasn't until I was older and the demons started that I realized, okay, something's going on, especially when the Catholic Church threw me out the front door. And, you know, people just wouldn't listen. Are we needing to go to a break?
No, another 10 minutes, I think. We will get cued to make before the break.
Okay.
Are you
You must have been shining a big light to attract demons. That's what Baldwin, who I studied with, says, you know, the bigger your light, the bigger something tries to stifle it.
Well, there is a story that I need to tell you both. I don't know if I have enough time in 2 minutes, but my mother, who used to go to psychics, would go to profound psychics. And she took me one time, I think I was 7 or 8, no, 9. And she sat me in the front room of the psychic's home, and we waited for the psychic to come out. And this was somebody that you made a year in advance appointment to see, a very powerful woman named Miriam in St. Petersburg, Florida. And she came around the corner to come and get my mother to take her back into the room. And my mother had instructed me, just sit there, Teri, don't move, don't make a sound, you know, don't come back here. I'm going back with Miriam. And then when Miriam came around the corner and she saw me, Miriam started screaming at the top of her lungs, scared the living bejesus out of me, and said, Mary, my mother's name is Mary, 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 oh my God, Mary, this child, I've never seen God in a human in this form. She said, oh my God, Mary. And my mother looked at Miriam and said, take your eyes off of her. I'm here for you to read me, not her. And Miriam again said, oh, but you don't realize who she is. And I'm sitting there listening to this, okay? And I'm like, I'll tell you who I am. I'm this little kid scared out of my freaking head. And, you know, what are you two talking about? And she said that my light, now I had never heard this before in my life. I was 9 years old, okay? Of course I didn't. She said that my light went all the way up to the ceiling. And it was a pure white light. And then my mother just said, well, I paid to see you. I need you to talk to me. And I can understand my mom. She was going through a divorce. She was desperate. She needed help and somebody to talk to, certainly not a 9-year-old. So, you know, she went in the back and was back there for an hour and came out. And Miriam was begging her to let me come back. And my mother wouldn't let her take me back. And that's just a story that I have tucked in, you know, my little pocket. I think about it all the time. So perhaps
it's obvious you had to learn to mother yourself. That's your lesson, obviously, that you know, you weren't being mothered when you needed it, and your lesson was to learn how to be your own mother.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I did raise my mother, to be honest with you, for a season in her life while she was falling apart. Our roles changed.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was falling apart, the world was collapsing, and so you had to turn up as the adult, even though you were 9.
Right. And I basically was raising her. Yeah. It was very sad. But this is, you know, Sasha asked me to uncover and be honest, and that's what I'm doing with you. I'm just bearing the truth of my life and my soul here on why I grew up with all of this pain. And then, you know, as I got older, I was raped, you know, and different things happened to me in my life that I would just bury. And instead of my mother having feelings of compassion, you know, she cursed me out like it was my fault. And different things would happen. And so through my life, I would just swallow all that pain and say, okay, you know, it's okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. We're going to just be fine. And I would just pick my little self up by my bootstraps and just move forward. And, you know, then it started in the dream realm. The spirits would come. And there was very little love in my life, very little love. And so I was my own source of love, and I was quite capable of being my own source of love because I just spoke positive things to myself and said, well, you know, we're just going to do this. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful day. Oh my gosh, I love this. Or, you know, I would have little pleasures.
Teri, did she allow a rapist to have access to you?
Did she allow what?
Was she the rapist to have access to you? Did she not protect you?
Well, no. My mother did tell me in 1979, I did have this very profound experience. You know, I think I shared that once before where I'm coming home from work late at night, 2:15 in the morning, and my car shuts off and I roll right up to a UFO that's hovered over a railroad track. And I mean, talk about dumbfounded. And I was just talking to the Lord the whole time going, God, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I thought this was comic book entertainment. I cannot believe this. And I went through that whole experience and I saw a tall white. I was taken on another ship. There were two ships. One had landed, one was hovered. And the extraterrestrial took me on the other ship. And I remember him speaking to me, male voice. He was very ugly, very tall, very thin, the ugliest thing I have seen. Well, not really. I mean, the demonic forces were pretty wicked, but it was equally as ugly. And I remember that when it was all over with, they brought me back in front of my car, which had shut off and I had gotten out of, and all these other things had happened to me. And I went to my mother's and I knocked on her door that night and I said, Mom, put a pot of coffee on. You got to listen to what happened to me. Oh my God, I need to talk to somebody who I know loves me. You know, because even though her life wasn't perfect and she had a lot of pain herself, she loved me in her own way. And I knew that. And I knew that if I needed to talk to somebody, it would be her. And I went back and sat with her that night, and it was that very night she said to me, it's okay, honey. I've seen them too. And I got absolutely livid angry with her and said, are you kidding me? You have known about this. And I was 27 at the time. And I said, and you never thought it important to tell me or educate me or give me this wisdom? How could you not have told me? Because I said I was scared out of my wits on that craft, all alone, you know.
What did she say to that when you said that?
She cried because she was upset. She was upset that I was angry, and she kind of cried and said, She said, I don't want you telling anybody about this, Teri, because if you do, they're going to think you're nuts. Don't talk about it. At the time, I had been working for Honeywell part-time, and I had been laid off, and I was waiting for them to call me back on a Gemini that we were working on. And it just worked out that they never called me back, but she said, if this gets out, you'll never get a job again. And I said, okay, you know, people say you're nuts. So I never did mention it, and it was 29 years later.
What did the tall whites do to you?
Well, I don't know. I had missing time for 2 hours that night. They took me on, there was just one tall white. He took me on a ship that had landed in a field just adjacent to where the railroad tracks ran, and there was a craft that was hovered over the railroad tracks. And I was staring at that when all of a sudden the blue light from the extraterrestrial came from my right side, and I looked over at it, and he was standing there, and I kept saying, don't look at it, don't look at it, it's way too ugly, don't look at it. And I was looking down, and when I did look down, My feet were not on the ground. I was not standing on the pavement in front of my car. The pavement of the road was about 2 feet under me. And I thought to myself, what? I am not on the pavement? Are you kidding me? And I couldn't even believe it. You know, because that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. I mean, for our everyday life, it doesn't happen. And it had never happened to me before that. And so I thought to myself, I'm not going over there. I'm not going to look at him. And the minute I said that, my body was being drawn. I was actually floating towards the tall white. The next thing I remember, I'm inside of the other craft. And I'm wide awake now, and I'm looking at it, at the room, and the whole room gives off light. Light comes from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, even the chair, the table I was on. Everything was this soft white light, and just enough to make it completely light, like in the daytime. But it was a soft white glow, and everything illuminated this soft white glow. And I sat up and I saw my shoes on my feet. I had these little sandals, strappy sandals, and they were on my feet, and I looked down and there were 2 grays. And one was his very long fingers were very close to my ankle. And he was right there. And the other one was a little bit farther away from my right foot. But then I looked straight up, and there was, looking down right at me, was the tall white. And he was very tall, and he was very thin, incredibly thin, and white like you could see right straight through him. And he spoke to me in a male voice, and he said, "We will not harm you. We will not take you." And I screamed out, "Take me? Take me where?" And the next thing I knew, I was standing back in front of my car. So I don't know what they did. I have no idea. But I do believe that whatever happened then, it had to do with my mother. Somehow or other, I really feel, you know, maybe Karen can validate that, what she's feeling, but I feel the connection was with my mother, because my mother had seen them, she had seen them come right up out of the Gulf of Mexico when she was out on her houseboat. Extraterrestrials in crafts just came right up out of the water, shot right out and went up into the sky and took off at amazing speeds. And they really do act just like that. I mean, they do have amazing speed when they move. It's uncanny.
I think it's
so
wonderful.
Karen, do you have any feedback for Teri about what happens or not, or what you're getting? Go ahead.
I think it's interesting because, you know, I get these pictures, these little films interdimensionally between, and I was seeing that you and your mother came in here, well, as we've had many, many live theaters, but you came in this one together to experience the ET connection.
I believe that.
You were linked. And when she told you when you were in your 20s, 27?
Yes.
This validated it. She had to wait that long because she wasn't strong enough, because she couldn't believe that she had experienced it either.
Right.
And didn't know what was wrong. And she was very conservative and very dignified about the way she carried her persona. And she just, she was raised, the reason she didn't show as much love is because she wasn't shown that when she was little.
She wasn't. You're absolutely right. She lived a horrifying life, which is why, you know, it was so easy for me to always forgive her. And, you know, she was an Aquarian, and she said to me, "Teri, I'm coming back as a Gemini." And I said, "You are, Mother?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Because 2 heads are better than 1. And I said to her, "Well, I hope you do come back as a Gemini." And I said, "Because trust me, it's really nice having both sides of, you know, I can see your side, but I can see this side too, you know." And I just thought that was interesting. But
right.
Thank you for saying that, because that really ministers to my soul. Because go ahead.
She's probably here with us right now, and she wants to help you know how much she loved you. And this whole assignment of ET, which you're so wonderful. I mean, the symposium that Paula did with you, I think, was the very best one, and it just really touched the souls of everybody at Sebring. But I tell you, you have a mission here, and your mother's probably with you with it.
I hope.
And it's pure love.
Mm-hmm. It is.
That's what it is. Because since this all happened, you have felt more loving as a mother, and as a mother to anything, maybe as a mother to an animal or things that, other than humans. It's enhanced that mother within you even more. So I see that it's a beautiful thing.
I agree. I do. I see that very much so.
Thanks for sharing that. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah, we haven't heard from you. Do you have anything to say before we come up on the break?
Yeah,
feedback.
I do have a question for Teri. You mentioned early in your story that you didn't believe that off-world species were capable of healing. Why did you have that attitude?
Well, because I was raised a Catholic, for one, which I denounced later in life. But then I went into seeking all different religions for about 5 years. I went into many different types of religions, and I checked them all out, and I was quite comfortable with non-denominational Christianity. And in absorbing that, I studied for 12 years very, very seriously on an everyday basis. And I was able to see that God healed. And, our healings they would come through God. And nowhere in the scriptures, well, of course, the 66 canons are incomplete because, the Catholic Church took so many out. And the Book of Enoch and so many others are missing. But no one had ever talked about anything else being able to heal, except there was one scripture about the angel who would stir the waters, and the people would jump into the water and they would become healed. And I thought, okay. So an angel did have the power, and God had the power. But I didn't know extraterrestrials had the power. And so I did, after that, I went into a very serious study and prayer, lots of prayer, and asking God to reveal the truth. I thought I just needed the truth. And He did respond to me, and I felt like He said to me, there's so much you do not understand. And this is one of these things. When I created humanity, I created you in my image, but I did not create these other species in my image. However, they have gifts. Every species I have created has a gift, be it something in the sea, be it something in the sky, be it something on the land, or other cosmoses. And I thought, well, there you go. There's your answer. And I thought, well, thank you. I now believe, I firmly believe that was God's voice to me. And He explained it so clearly to me. He is the one who created all these different things. He said He created the stars, and that those stars actually all have names. And I thought, wow, imagine that. And every grain of sand. So I thought, okay, why couldn't an alien heal? Period.
Well, you make sense. Period. We're coming up with a break in 2 minutes. Sash, say something before the break. Say something to tie this all together. You're good at that. Unmute.
Okay, Janet asked me to say something before the break, so here it comes. Something before the break.
No.
That's profound.
So you're listening to a real fun show. We're really learning a lot. You know, one of the things when you have a causal model, a creator, and however you want to think it, that's not very cybernetic. Perhaps the creations and the creator are creating each other simultaneously, or they're in a relationship. If you look at it in a system way, you get a totally different result than if you do it in a dichotomous way with polarities. So if the polarities are just abstractions, I would suggest that the fun is to be able to keep embracing them.
Well, I know that we live in a multidimensional paraphysical world, you know, but I guess we have to go to break.
I think we are getting to the break. So you're listening to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. We will be back in 5 minutes. Is that correct? That's great. Thank you. Everybody,
Music.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio! Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hello and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix. And I'm your host, Janet Keir Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin, Karen Gresham-Nickel, and our producer and co-host is Deborah DeFranco, and our guest is Teri Lynge-Kehl. And we're going to get back to you in just a moment here, but I first want to remind you all to go up to the donation button on revolution.radio on top left and do make your one-time donation, and then you can go to the Patreon button up there at the top as well. I think it's top center, and make a recurring donation. And we do thank you very much for your donations because they allow us to keep coming to you and bringing you all these shows. There's like 80 or so many hosts and shows. I don't know the number, but we've been with you since 2012, and we thank you for helping us to carry on. So coming back to the second half of the show, let's start with you, Sasha. Do you have any questions, directions you want to take this conversation, feedback?
Yes, and
then we'll go.
Indeed, yeah. I guess for Teri and Deborah and Karen, for everybody, it's like if we each have a favorite guide, what is that guide? I heard in the stuff you were saying, Teri, it's obvious that Jesus is one of your guides. But, who is each of our guides, and what are they telling us, or what are they showing us now? I think would be an interesting question to pass around.
Who do you want to answer first, Sash?
Whoever feels most motivated to answer next.
Well, I suppose I could say something about, I do believe that Jesus has definitely anointed me to do what I'm doing. I do feel that there's a very strong connection with me and God and the angelic realm. They seemed to come through in such ways to help me so many times, and in such bizarre ways that I could have never even conceived of. And they've spoken to me, they've appeared to me, they've come to me, and over the years, the guides are clearly the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and God himself, and the angels. So, a lot of people say to me, well, that's just where you are and you need to rise above that. But I think not. I think that is exactly where I should be. And it works. I mean, they have guided me thus far. And I have so many different experiences I could share, little mini ones if you'd want me to, but on things that they had said and done to prevent not just my death, but harm to come to me. And that wasn't coincidental.
Tell us one of them.
Well, for instance, one quick one was in the 80s. I had walked up to a little general kind of a place, and I had $300 in my wallet. I had just cashed one of my paychecks, and I was just running up to get something for one of the boys. And on the way back, I had to go through a field, and it was now getting dark. We were in dusk time of the evening. And there were 3 boys on the corner, and I saw them standing there, and I knew I had to pass them. And I really got quite frightened because I knew I had a lot of money in my purse, and I could literally hear them saying, now this was miraculous that I could hear them because they were far away. But I could hear them like they were talking right in front of me. And I heard one say, let's hit her, knock her down. And the other one said, yeah, who's going to hit her? And the other kid said, she's got a purse. We'll take her money. And I thought, oh, my God, I'm too getting too close as I'm walking and I'm hearing all this. That was divine intervention that I could hear them. It was like I got a dog's ear or something. I could hear them talking about how they were going to attack me. And I thought to myself, do I turn and run? Could they possibly outrun me? Could I get back to the little general in time? And then I heard this voice, very clear, in my left ear, say just this: ask them if you can borrow a dime to use the payphone. I'm like, really? And I thought, oh my God. And now my heart is pounding. It's up in my throat. I'm getting close to them. And I very flippantly say, in a fun kind of jovial way, hey, you guys just have a dime. I need to use the payphone and I haven't got any money. And I heard the one guy who was kicking the dirt literally said, ah, shit. Bleep. I'm sorry. And that's what he said. And, you know, but anyway, so I thought to myself as I walked past the boys, no one laid a hand on me. Oh, my God. That was one. Another time I was coming off the interstate doing 75 miles an hour, and the light as you exit it off the exit towards my house, I was in the car with my mother, and I was the first car. There was like 6 or 7 cars behind me. I stopped for the red light, and then the green light came on, and I sat there. And I sat there. And 2 horns behind me were beeping, and my mother looked at me and said, Teri, why aren't you going? And I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth, and a semi running his red light, doing about 80 miles an hour, flew past us under the bridge, flew past us. We would have all been cremated right then and there. It would have been the end of all of our lives. And I looked at my mother, and she started screaming as the truck passed. She goes, why didn't you go? Why didn't you go? And I said, Mom, I don't know. I couldn't. My foot wouldn't move. I couldn't even engage my foot. You know, that was another one. And then there was a time when I had a demonic full-bodied apparition come into my home and stand in the doorway of my home. I mean, this person was dressed. He had an actual body, hair, eyes, hands, clothes on, Sriracha sandals, the whole 9 yards, standing in my doorway. And I looked up and I said, John, what are you doing in my house? And then I thought to myself, why is he there? And he was just staring at me. He never spoke a word. And then I said, John, why are you in my bedroom? And at that point, the face on this demon changed. He shape-shifted, and a tornadic experience happened. I had never seen that before. But the body, the face stayed firm as it was shape-shifting into a demonic entity from this person that I knew. And I thought it was actually the man standing in my house. And it was not. And by the way, this man was still alive in this lifetime. So it would have been a possibility that he could have gotten into my house and into my bedroom. So it was within the realm of normalcy, you know. But everything else that happened wasn't. Yes. Did you want to say something? Well, so anyway, so where the interaction came in. So as I'm standing there, I'm frozen in fear. I mean, frozen in fear. And I'm sitting on the bed, and I can't move. And all of a sudden, I wanted to call out to Jesus. I wanted to call out for help, because the fear had gripped me to the point where I couldn't even move a muscle. Nothing would move on me. I was frozen in fear, and that's a real term, okay? And I heard a voice in my left ear, a male voice say, see the name. And I thought, okay. I was so scared, I didn't even know the name of Jesus. I couldn't deal with it. I was that afraid. And so I said, I think it starts with a, I think. And remember now, the whole time I'm looking into the face of a demon who's gone tornadic. That was freaking scary beyond belief. And I'm alone in the house, and I'm going, I think it starts with a J, yeah, J. And then I couldn't think of anything else. And I'm like, oh my God, I think why don't I know his name? Why can't I say his name? I think there's an E. Oh yeah, there's an E. And then I saw J-E, but I still didn't recognize it. That's how, when fear grips you, I mean, you're in trouble. I mean, you are on your own. And I just kept saying, okay, see the word. And I'm still looking at this thing as it's changing. This was all happening momentarily. And then I went S. There's an S somewhere in there. It's J-E-S. And then I went, Jesus! And the minute I did that, I saw the back of my own head leave my body, sit straight up. My left hand rose up and pointed to the door. I was looking at the back of my own head. That's a first. And I knew it was me. It was my spirit being coming out of my body because I had called on the name of Jesus, and I was given this power, this immense anointed power, and this demonic thing flew out of my bedroom, ran down the hall, and slammed the bedroom door in my children's bedroom. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? I got up and ran out of the house. I was freaked out beyond freaked out. I had never seen anything like that. It was more frightening than anything. It was like being face to face with Satan, if there's a Satan, if you will. And I just thought, oh my God. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. That thing went into my children's room. They're going to be coming home from school. I've got to get back in that house. I cannot let that thing stay there. If they come home and they go in their room and they get possessed by some demon, no freaking way. So I had to walk back in that house scared out of my mind. And I was beyond frightened, going, okay. I saw the back of my head. Oh my God, I saw a tornadic demon. Oh my God. And as I was walking towards the door of my children's bedroom, and I put my hand on that door, I can tell you right here and now, as sure as you can hear my voice, the power of God himself came over me, and I was not standing in fear any longer. I was so powerfully anointed. I was angry, and I opened that door, and I was a different person. And that very day was the day I decided to look into demonology. And I said, walking through the fear, I overcame the fear. And the minute my hand hit that doorknob, I was in charge, period. Hands down, boom. And when I opened that door, there was not a thing in the room. And I said to everything in that room, I said, in Jesus' name, get out of this house now. And I wasn't afraid. I just stood there in the room, and I thought, okay, I got rid of it. And, you know, when you live through moments like that, you're never the same person again. It's like going through an accident. It's unbelievable how it changes you. So those are just
and I've heard that before. The people, if they're able to call out, and I'm not sure, you know, they may or may not believe in Jesus. You know how people say, you know, Jesus all the time, even if they may not be of that religion. But there's something in the power of the saying those J-E-S-U-S that actually will take that demonic energy and repel it. Absolutely. And that happened to my sister one time. I had another guest on, and he was saying that he was working with a bunch of clients, and no matter what their religious thoughts were, when they called upon the name of Jesus, then whatever demonic forces were coming towards them, they were repelled and they went away. So, Karen, we haven't heard from you in a while. Any comments or questions, feedback on what Teri just said?
We'd also like to hear what your guide. Also, Karen, we want to hear about your guide and what that's about too.
She might be
still
muted.
with us, Karen. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So Deborah, your turn.
My turn. And it's my turn to do what? Talk about my guides? I know very little about my guides.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, where do you go?
I know.
How do you do it?
How do I do what?
How do you seek your direction? How do you find your calling? How do you know what's where you're being attracted? That kind of thing.
I follow my gut instinct all the time. I never plan anything. Like, I literally go with my gut every step, every day. There's never a day planned. Nothing I do is ever planned.
Wow.
You're in the now.
I'm always
so what do you
in
think
the now.
About? That's awesome. That's what you're supposed. What do you think about Deborah's experience with the demonic forces? Have you ever encountered any negative demonic type forces?
Only the ones that are actually alive.
Okay. So you've seen the shape-shifting demon, the nice person turns into this.
Well, I gotta tell you, I have never seen spirit before except for one instance. I went to meet one of my co-hosts for the first time on the old show. And we had been talking probably for about 4 or 5 months, but had never met face to face. And we do what's called, spirit communication with electronic devices. And we were going to do an investigation in some local spots, one of it being right next to our house on an intersection on a bridge where people were often hit in car accidents and killed. So that night we were doing an investigation and we had a spirit box and we had a lot of messages come through and a lot of validations. But that night, while we were standing there, as I stepped onto the street, I almost felt like I had vertigo because I thought we were walking really far away. And I had told her how I felt, and she said, that's funny because this is exactly where we're going. And then while I'm standing there looking at her, probably about when we're almost done with the investigation, I see a spirit walking up on her. And what I see is like, you know how you're looking in a desert in a lot of heat, how you see a mirage in the distance? That's what I saw. Like, I could see a hooded figure. It was a man, a very tall man, like 6'4". He had his hands in his hoodie, and he was walking up to my friend, like walking up on her. And you could tell he had very sinister intentions just by his movement. And that's the first time I ever saw spirit. And while I'm sitting there talking to her, I see this dog, this white dog, walk on the side of the road going past us. But when I look over, it's gone. And I'm telling my friend, and she goes, that's funny because a white dog had just gotten killed there like the week before. So those were my first experiences of ever seeing spirit firsthand. And I've never had an experience like that since.
Well, what happened when that 6'4" person got to your friend? Did he?
When he walked up on her, she was facing me and I was facing her. And when he walked up on her, she could see the look on my face change. And when she saw the look on my face change, she goes, something just walked up behind me, didn't it? And I'm like, yeah. And I told her what I saw. And she goes, I could feel it. Like, I could see it and she could feel it. But it didn't do anything. It was just in spirit form. But I almost felt like we were reliving, like it was a recording. We were reliving something that had happened, right? And we just happened to be in the spot where it happened. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's good. Good insight. did we ever get Karen back? Are you with us, Karen? No, Karen. Okay. Back to Teri.
Oh,
Go ahead,
I'm
Teri.
sorry. I forgot to undo my mic. Okay. I'm here.
Okay.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me? Okay, great. What?
Okay. Did you hear what we're asking you? Because we were talking about spirit guides and demonics. Have you experienced who are your spirit guides?
How do you get guidance?
What?
I'm sorry?
Say that again, Sasha, because we can't hear we're all talking about. One at a time. What do you want to say, Sasha? Speak. Go ahead.
I just said.
Go ahead, Sasha. Speak.
We were sharing. How do you get guidance? Who are your favorite guides, and what are they telling you nowadays?
Okay. Well, my favorite guide is Jesus, which is the Hebrew Yeshua. And so that's who I call out to all the time, and I usually get results within instantly or quickly. But I am part of a mission who has come here, as I guess many of us who he came to me and told me many times that he wanted his mission done as he wanted it to be, that he was situationed societally throughout the eons in ways that people came together and represented him. But he said, I'm not from this world. I'm an extraterrestrial. And he said, there are others I'm sending you, and I will always be there. So just call out for me or see me. And I see him as he was and as he came in the Middle East. He appeared. And it's my belief that the three wise men were part of the ETs that helped him get in. And I believe in him. He helps me all the time. And I also have another one that's an ET that's a little child. And in fact, I met him when I was 8 years old, in the mirror when I had an experience in my bedroom. And he was watching himself in my vanity. And I've told this story before to you all. I don't know if I've ever told it to Teri or Deborah, but, my room was yellow and he was looking at himself around in this mirror. And I screamed and I said, oh, and my mother came to the door and she said, what's wrong? And I said, well, there's a little, bitty guy and he doesn't have any clothes on. He's white. He has no hair. He was looking in the mirror. She said, you've just had a bad dream. You need to go back to sleep. And I said, okay. And so at the same time she opened the door, he shifted into another dimension. But I think he's still with me because he comes around when I call for Yeshua, Jesus. He's around at all times too. And then I have different ones that come all the time, that just visit me. And I have things come in and out of the house. They're all good. I've never really experienced anything really evil. I'm sure I have and haven't known about it. I've encountered some pretty evil situations earthwise, but I haven't had an experience with somebody like that, with a spirit like that. And I lived in Brazil for years and I learned all about that, Macumba, Umbanda, Candomblé, all of that when I did the research with David. But that's all that I have to say. A lot of ETs, there's a beautiful picture, and I, on Facebook, joined this group, one of the groups called the Octurians, and they won't let anybody share this picture, and I don't know why, because it's the most beautiful picture of Jesus, and the little ETs are all around him, loving on him and everything, and it said, I said that I wasn't from this world, and the UFO, the ETs are coming. So that holds my heart. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Back to you, Teri. Any other stories? That was wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, which other story? One of the ones from the demonic realm, or what would you like me to share?
Whatever motivates you. What would you like to share?
Well, there is one that I do want to share. It was from the demonic realm. And, the beautiful thing is I don't live in a place of fear any longer. Even while we were talking earlier, our lights were going on and off. And I mean, I just look at things like that and basically laugh and think, okay, this is a challenge. I will overcome this challenge. But, one of the other full-bodied apparitions that came to me was my grandmother. And my mother, as we had talked about earlier in the program, had a very, very bad life living with her parents. And she also had a very heartbroken life with her marriages and things like that. And my grandmother was very unsympathetic. She was really a very wicked kind of soul. It was like she was just in love with herself, but didn't really care about anybody else. And my mother was always reaching out to her for love and attention and help, and my grandmother never gave it to her. So my grandmother lived to be 96, and I got to know her quite well. And I was able to break through and touch that woman, but she was still very cold. And that always bothered me, how she treated her mom, my mom. And when she passed, about 6 years after she passed, she came in a full-body apparition in the same exact doorway that John had come, and stood there in full clothes, looked like a person standing there, full color in her face, the whole thing, shoes on, everything. And she looked at me and approached me, and I stood up. Now remember, I'd already had one experience like this, so I knew what to expect to some degree. And I stood up and I put my finger in her face and said, "Oh, no, you don't. You do not come to me in this life and ask for forgiveness. I will not hear you. I will not receive you. I will not talk to you. Get out of my house in the name of Jesus." And she looked shocked, and then she backed up, and I said, "You had your time while you were alive in the land of the living to repent to my mother, to love her, and to do right by her, and you did not. You chose pain over love. Get out of my house." And again, she backed up, and she got lighter and lighter until, poof, she was gone. I ran to the phone, and I called my mom, and I said, Mom, you will never believe what just happened. I said, your mother was here. And my mom got real quiet, and she goes, "Teri." And I said, "No, Mom, no kidding. Your mother was just here," and I threw her out. I said I would not receive her. I don't know why she was here, but I was assuming she was here to talk to me about something. But since she had been so cruel to you in this lifetime, I would not receive her in my lifetime. And so my mom was crying, and she said to me, "But Teri, what did she want?" And I said, Mom, I thought you'd be proud of me that I threw that wicked woman out of this house with the way she treated you. And my mother said, "But why didn't you just give her a chance to speak?" And I said, "Because truthfully, Mom, I don't want to hear what she has to say." So my point in all of this, even though it hurt my mother and she cried and said, "I wish you would have just let her come through and tell you what she wanted," the point is that while we are in the land of the living, we have a chance now to make amends, to do the right thing, to heal the brokenhearted that we have caused the breaking of their hearts. Now's that time, not later. And I could have allowed her to come to me and repent, but I would not have received it. I know I wouldn't have, because I really feel that once you're gone, you're gone. And you've made your last statement. Your last breath has been breathed. Your last words have been spoken. And I don't know that it would have ever comforted me at all. It may have comforted my mother, but then why didn't she go to my mother? Why did she come to me? And so I really feel like once people have crossed the veil, then that's the time when it's all said and done. And we humans can go to their graves and we can cry, or we can, do that sort of thing. And we can say what we want to say, but they can't. So, and to all of your listeners, anybody listening, now's the time. If you have something to say to somebody, say it now. Never wait. Don't ever put off anything. Say it now.
What do you think she wanted to tell you if you were just to make it up? What do you imagine she would have said?
I do think she wanted to say that she was sorry about how she treated my mother. But you know what? I'm not my mother. There's no reason to come to me and say that. But my mother had been so hurt from her. You have no idea. I mean, this woman was viciously evil to my mother in many, many ways, many ways. And I'm not going to mention it because it's even hurtful for me to hear it come out of my own mouth. She was very wicked. And, that kind of pain.
She hurt you. She hurt the way Grandma hurt you was by the way she socialized your mom.
Yes. Yeah, because if you are my friend, you are my friend, and I take you under my own personal wings, and I will protect you because I have the strength to do that. When the Lord appeared to me, and he did in 1973, it was so absolutely profound. He said to me, "You are my chosen child." And I said, "Chosen? Chosen for what?" And he gave me gifts that I couldn't see, but I took them into myself. And they were strength and dignity. And there were different things that I recognized, and I could feel these powers coming into me back in that time. And they've always stayed very much with me. And it helped me fight all these different things that I've gone through. And it's what brought me, into being ordained as a minister, into the demonology, into looking at what's happening in the extraterrestrial realm, in the spiritual realm, in the angelic realms. I'm not afraid to go into any realm. And that strength is what has been given to me. But, being chosen has its blessings and its cursings because there are many things that I fight all the time. Evil. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, sometimes it's hard for me to even wake up in the morning and go outside because I don't know what my eyes are going to drink in from this planet. This is a very strange planet, let me tell you.
I agree.
Yeah. I know you do.
Me, remember what the two little girls said in the video? Teri was like,
say that again.
What the two little girls in the video said, the two little volunteers, they were cute. Teri, you'll see it if you go to my Facebook. They're two little girls. They're like 8 and 10. It's about 10 minutes long. It's called The Volunteers. It's really cute. They telepathically talk about Earth. It's really
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I really do feel enlightened, if you will. I mean, that's a strong word, but I do feel that there's so much more than what meets the eye, and we're not being told the truth, and there's so many things beyond our realm of understanding. Some of us are awake and really do see it. Others aren't and are fluttering in trying to wake up and see it all. But we live in a very wicked, self-serving planet where people are in love with themselves. And, there's so many wickednesses here. And I think our mission is to come here to find God, to rise above it, to love beyond all reason and without, judgment. And it's very difficult to do. It's because, a lot of times when I was a very young Christian, I would say, well, God bless these people because I won't. Or I would say, well, God, I'm glad you love these people because I don't. Or I'm glad you died for these people because I sure wouldn't. You know, I mean, I would hear myself saying those things because people were so cruel to one another. And I would have to witness this cruelty. And I could see the demons right behind their eyes. I could see that they were being controlled by evil forces because of hurts and angers and things that people had done to them. Was it their fault? Maybe no. Maybe no, it wasn't their fault, but nevertheless it happened to them. And I would have to say to these people, please rise above this. Please forgive. Please look beyond this. This will take you down. This will put your body in dis-ease. You will get cancers. You will get illnesses. You will have all these things. And even in my own life, the stress of all that caused me to bleed for 2 years. And this is why I really believe that I was healed. Because they wanted people to know, look, we understand, we see, we hear you. You know, I really do think that.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. And I think that is true. I think those of us who come forward to do this work, it's pretty painful.
It is.
You can get your feelings hurt really quickly.
Right. Today I was driving down the street and I thought to myself, what if my heart wasn't in this place? What if I didn't love? What if I didn't forgive? What if I didn't reach out when others won't? I've been told that I've gone the extra mile 1,000 times. And I said, well, you know, you can always go the extra mile because you're going to be walking alone. You know, nobody's going to walk with you. That's for darn sure. And if you do have somebody walking with you, God bless you that you have a friend. But mostly I don't have friends. There's jealousies, there's angers, there's resentments, there's hurts, there's this, there's that. And I can't control the things people think. So it is a very lonely walk. But then again, Jesus said, narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. And I think, man, I found it, but it's the loneliest walk. It can sometimes really be that way, you know, and I know you can hear me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one thing I want to say, your energies are really filled with love today, and I really think I'm really grateful that you're sharing all this because there's so much love energy coming from your field. And it'll come right back to you. From me, especially, and from others, from all.
And we need that. You know, those of us who carry the torches and the lights and the words and the wisdoms and the prophecies, we need that because we're always struggling. We're always looking at it, and we see both sides. I think that's why my mom said I'm coming back as a Gemini. And of course, then my great-granddaughter is born a Gemini, and I'm like, Mom, is that you? But
you never know.
You what?
Wow. I'm saying that might be your great-granddaughter is your mom. Is there any way you can, has she said anything?
Well, she is very much drawn to me, and yet there are all these, I can't go into it, but there are really demonic entities that are keeping her from me, and that kind of proves that it could possibly be her. You know, if in fact she did come back, if that was a choice that she was given or made, you know, I don't know. I know this world really hurt her and abused her, but she came out a victor. She definitely was an overcomer in the end and found her path and found her footing, if you will. She had lost her sea legs for years, and then she found herself. And I'm very proud of her for that, and I love her very much because her fight was horrid. And I wouldn't have wanted to walk that path. But she came through like a trooper, and she passed really beautifully. And I was there. And when I was 16 years old, my mother and I were driving in a car going down the road. I'll never forget it. We were on 22nd Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. And she looked at me and said, when I die, you're going to be with me. And I said, I know. Like a 16-year-old would say, you know. And she said, because Teri, it's going to be you. You're the one. And I looked at her again and I said, I'm sure it'll be me. And then I said again, kind of in a nice way, I said, well, Mom, if there's any way possible, it'll be me. And it was. And so her passing was amazing, what she saw and what she spoke as she left. It was amazing what she said. What did
she say?
Well,
what did she say?
I was right up next to her as she was, you know, leaving, and she was in a pretty much like a coma. She had gotten lung cancer from smoking, and so she didn't have a voice for like a week. And it, you know, when she would talk, it was like a whispery kind of a talk. It's like you didn't hear her voice, but all of a sudden, right at the end, she came up out of it, and I was right up next to her, and I was saying, Mom, you know, I just want you to know how much I love you, and I will always remember you, and I'll never forget the things that you've done, the combing my hair, teaching me how to eat, blah, blah, blah. You know, I was giving her all that love. And all of a sudden, it was like I didn't even exist, and she sat right up, looked forward, and went, oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I went, what, Mom, what do you see? And she goes, oh, beautiful. And I said, do you see Jesus? And she shook her head, no. I said, do you see the angels? And she shook her head, no. And I said, what do you see? And she said, oh, dear, it's more beautiful, more beautiful. And I said, oh, my God. I said, well, Mom, reach out for God. He's got to be there. And then she sat back down and died.
Wow.
And I actually saw in the spirit, I saw her body laying there. Her lips were going blue. Her nails were turning blue. Everything, her face was going gray. And her being left her body and stood right behind me. And my cousin, who was in the room with me at the time, Suzanne, said, oh, Aunt Mary, come back, come back. And I said, Suzanne, put my mother's arm down. She's already gone. And Suzanne looked at me and she said, oh, but Teri, where is she? And I turned around and I said, standing over there looking at the two of us. And Suzanne said, oh, Aunt Mary, I love you, you know, and I said, Mom, I'll see you soon. And she was gone. And it was just amazing. That whole day was amazing. There are so many miracles in that day. It'd take another 3 hours for me to share them, so I won't. But it was amazing.
That's great.
Well, did she come see you after? Like my mom came and my dad came.
Yes, absolutely. My mother has come in dreams, only in dreams. I think she's afraid I'll throw her out if she came in full body like I did her mom. But I wouldn't. But she comes in dreams and I hear her voice. And let me just say, there is nothing more beautiful than hearing the voice of someone that you love and hearing it. Because once they're gone on this planet, you don't hear that anymore. And so when she comes in my dreams, I always go, now, Mom, you know you're dead, right? And she goes, oh, yes, Teri. You know, and yes, I know I'm dead. And then she'll introduce me to friends and she'll talk to me and she'll hug me. And in the dreams, it's just amazing because it's like she's right there. And I can feel that hug. I can feel the love. I can hear her voice and, you know, feel that touch. It's really wonderful. And I hope that happens to everybody who loses loved ones because it's the most rewarding thing. She came to me frequently when she left. Now she only comes once in a while, and she's on the other side of the street waving. Isn't that amazing? They come and support you in your need.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but once you don't need them as much anymore, they wave from across the street. And I wave like, oh, hey, Mom. And then she's gone.
Wow.
It's really beautiful.
Okay, we have, about 15, right? Anyway, let's see, 45, 55, about 12 minutes left. Okay, let's go around to comments. Deborah, do you have any comments, feedback, questions? Anything to share?
No, no, I can't even relate to any of this. No. I haven't even had any experiences that are even close to something like that. I haven't had a lot of death in my family, you know? Or, yeah, so I haven't had a lot of experiences with people passing. But I do remember when my dad was dying, and I remember, you know how when people are dying, especially they know they're dying and they've got a chronic illness and their time is short, and they seem to bridge two worlds. They seem to bridge this world and the one they're going to, right? And I often remember my father, because I would sit in the doorway at night because he would be awake all night battling his demons. And he was often talking to people that had passed already.
That's
and
very
I had yeah. And my brother was actually sleeping with him one night, and he started having a full-on conversation with my father. Started having a full-on conversation with my cousin who had died 20 years before, and it freaked my brother out, and he got out of the bed. But that went on. I stayed with my dad for 2 weeks. That went on the whole time I was there with him. He would stay up all night talking to people that had passed, like he was bridging both worlds.
Right, they do actually. They do bridge them both.
Wow. Well, beautiful. Both my parents came to me, but it was like on day 3. My sister had left the room, and when she got to the parking lot to go get some food, of course the hospital called and said, "Your mom just passed." And she turned around and went into the elevator and got up there, and as she was walking in the door, my mother came, she was out of her body, and she came up to my sister and said, "Louise," right in her ear. And at the same time, my brother is walking down the stairs at his house, and my mother turns the light switch on and off right in front of his face, and he's seeing this light switch go on and off, and the lights go on and off. And he said, "Mom just died." Now, I'm the psychic one, and they called me. They both had these experiences, and I felt really upset. I said, "Oh, Mom didn't even come to me." But then on the 3rd day, and then Sasha said, "Oh, they stick around for 3 days. Don't worry, she'll come." So I'm sleeping, and she comes, and she takes me out of my body, and I'm in Hawaii, in Maui, and she died in Pennsylvania. So she takes me to the house that I was born in. Now, the house was always haunted. It's full of all these ghosts. And she's got me, like she's done her arm wrap between my arm, and she's taking me around the house and she's talking like a 78 record, and I'm a 45 or something. It was like different speeds, and she's talking really fast. At first, I can't hear her. It's almost like a bee humming, but then somehow I adjust, and I hear her, and she's saying, "See, I took them with me. There's no more ghosts or demons, whatever it was." And so she's taking me around the house, and she's so excited. She had a stroke, so half of her body was paralyzed, and she was walking again. She was 76 when she died, and she looked like she was about 50. And she's so excited. She says, "But you can't be here any longer because this is too dangerous. This will hurt your body. I've got to take you." So she walked me down the steps and out the front door, and she pushed me through the front door, and I go fly back across the universe and into my body back in Hawaii, and I bolt upright, and I go, "Wow, Mom just came, and she showed me, what's happening." So that was my experience. Anybody else have any experiences before we go back to Teri?
Well, I'll just say I lost Robert 8 months ago now, October the 29th. And I've told you all this before. I don't think I've told Teri, but it's way too long. But he had been sick for a long time, and he died from COPD, emphysema. And he actually had cancer, and then we lived, Terry remembers all this when he was on his oxygen. He was doing a little purse when we were in Sebring and with Terry and Kevin. And then he got worse. His cancer was totally gone. MD Anderson, they're angels. And so he had esophageal stage 4, and it was totally gone. And then he died from emphysema. He could have never made it through what's going on here. But we had a configuration, we had a pact, and we set up symbols and signs and communication because he knew he was getting ready to die at hospice. And we talked it out and laid it out and laid the signs and the symbols. And I will say this, I have learned so much. Sasha helped me he brought in a lot of, Robert, we had a celebration of life here in the Rienzi where we live. It's a building, and it was beautiful. I had recording people there. Robert picked his own music out that we played, and we had a minister from the Unity Church come in. And it was really nice, but he died on a Tuesday, and when I was in the chair picking the music out, it came out, I had a whole slew of songs, and Tuesday afternoon was the one that came, and it was like a symbolic of him leaving. And so since then he's gone through many. All of the Moody Blues and all of the symbols and the signs. Robert and I have studied this for 20 years. And he rode the ET with me and the whole thing. He was totally dedicated to Roswell. And it would take me too long to go into all this. But there's one thing I must say is that he was brilliant. He was strong. And he did leave me a sound on my landline. I came in to get my messages, and I have a guy who works with me now. He's great. His name's Derek. And I know Kevin's been through so much with me, Terry, with sound. He's wonderful. But I was getting my messages on this landline, and all of a sudden I hear this voice, and he said, and just like he was struggling, trying to get through the dimension, he said, "I'm going to try a better vehicle." And it was incredible. And I have music before he died and that. And Derek and I let Janet and Sasha hear it a long time ago. And his friends, I've let about 3 or 4 people hear it. I don't want to put it on the air. But it was him. And he's given me so many gifts, and he's come through dreams. The dreams aren't clear. But I wake up and I call for him. I've seen him only one time at the side of my bed, but I was turned on my side and I knew not to look at him. He was like in his 30s, and then it just disappeared. And so it just goes on and on and on. But he comes most through music with me, and he helps my students with music. And when you were talking about dreams a while ago, he's helping one of them who's writing a children's book, with the row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And he came up with that. He's used dreams a lot, and it's just one thing after another. So I just wanted to share that as briefly as I could. It gets really deep.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hey, we have about 3 minutes. Anybody have anything they want to say? And then Terry, take us on out. Anybody, anything they want to share right now?
I want you to advertise now. How can they what are your books and your websites?
Okay. Well, you can definitely go to terilyng.com, and my book is there. That's my website. And you can also go to DOM, D like David, O, and M like Mary, at MUFON.com if you want to send me a message or talk to me. I'm always here for people that are wondering, what to do with especially demonic things or spiritual things that are upsetting them, or extraterrestrial as well. Really. I don't really ever distinguish between those. It's just like the whole enchilada to me. It's like they all kind of go hand in hand. It seems like when you have one, you have them all. So dom@mufon.com if you want to talk to me, or my website, www.teriling.com.
Okay. Are you guys still there? I can't hear anything.
I'm here.
Yeah, I think we're all here.
Okay, I'll say a quick thing, about the demonic. Any normal human impulse, if it's denied and not recognized, becomes demonic and takes over the personality. So it's better to, if you have, like take anger. If you never can express your anger, it turns to rage, and then you're so sweet, and then you could kill everybody at McDonald's. But if you can say, oh, well, what does the angry part want? And I do think that, Teri, you really nicely summarized that. You'll find out the angry part wants to assert itself effectively. So once you start to be able to look at the needs of the demonic forces within you, then you stop imagining them outside of you. And so is in psychology anyway. That's a really interesting thing to do. And I just want to add that. I really love your presentation. You took us through so much. It was like, wow, what a trip. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. It was really nice being here with you all.
And that's our music. So thank you so much. Everyone